Hey there, I'm Elizabeth Henson. Welcome to the Messy Success Podcast, where I'm helping creative dreamers and overachievers tackle business and life. After 6 years of being my own boss, I finally unraveled a tiny bit of what it takes to survive in this amazing world of being an overly creative entrepreneur. I'm your business bestie, here to help you with all those big ideas and to normalize some of the day-to-day struggles that we all share. My mission is simple. I want more women to make a living doing what they love and to feel good about themselves in the process. The best way to start? We can't do it alone. So welcome. I hope you'll hang out with me here where it's totally okay to be messy. Hello, you guys. Welcome back to the Messy Success Podcast. Your host, Elizabeth Henson here, returning after maternity leave and the birth of my third child, Anthony Mac Henson. I feel like I'm going to be a little rusty. I haven't recorded a podcast episode in a while. I took a break, I think a month or two before he was born, and I really wanted to wait for my comeback until I knew that I could be consistent and put out at least one episode every week. And he is almost 4 months old, you guys. While I've been back at work, in a minimal way, I will say, I'm a little anxious about returning, but equally excited, so excited, you guys, to be here, to be chatting with you. I'm going to be kind of leveraging a lot of my content this year. That is my word of 2020 is leverage, meaning that I'm going to be repurposing recording and content that I put out, trying to maximize my ability to kind of have touch points with you guys and hang out and all that stuff. So I'm really excited to be here, and bear with me if I'm rusty, if I, am not as smooth as I should be. I'm a very tired mom. Anthony woke up 3 times last night. It's really hit or miss with how well he's sleeping at this point. I know that's everybody's first question is how are they sleeping? Oh my goodness. And he is such a good baby, such a good baby. He's an okay sleeper. Could be better, could be worse, but he's just happy. He's easy. He lets us put him down. He's a really good boy. So I know everyone has been dying to hear his birth story. So that is reason number 1 that I am here today to share his birth story with you. I'm going to try to tie in some good old work-life balance tips for you. Real life. I'm not going to sugarcoat anything in this episode. Okay, we're going to dive in and I'm going to tell you the good, the bad, the ugly, the emotions, all the above. So first things first, Anthony, like I said, is my third. So Gracie, my oldest, is 6. Madison, my middle girl, is almost 4. She'll be 4 in March. And then Anthony was just born October 3rd. And like I said, he's almost 4 months old. So Gracie was induced on her due date. I had high fluid. Madison came on her own a week late. It took 1 shot of Pitocin to kind of speed things up, and she was probably my easiest delivery of the 3. Anthony was kind of a special case because I was really getting close to my due date, probably a week or 10 days out. And my doctor looked at me and she was like, so how do you feel about your due date? How do you feel about going over? You're a perfect candidate for a voluntary induction. He's a perfect candidate. Everything looks great, straightforward, 3rd pregnancy, no complications. It's totally up to you. And while I wanted this to be my pregnancy with no Pitocin, for whatever reason, I was kind of stuck on that, right? Let's see what this is like without kind of evicting them, even though Maddie was a week late, so her Pitocin doesn't really count. But, as soon as she said that, I was like, I don't want to go over my due date. I have a wedding in 3 weeks, 3 weeks after my due date. I really don't want to shorten my maternity leave any more than it already is. So I didn't hesitate and I totally volunteered for the voluntary induction. And I will say, also, I was having a lot of anxiety about, what if he comes on his own in the middle of the night? And I know my parents are on call and they're only 3 miles away, but there's something about having to leave your children in the middle of the night and have them wake up, even if they're kind of mentally prepared that their pop-up and Lolo might be there. It's like the thought of not having to deal with that was like a weight lifted off my shoulders. So I was like, let's just do this. Let's schedule the induction. He's ready. I'm ready. We're dilated. We're effaced, all the things. So she let me schedule the induction for a couple of days early. So he came on the 3rd. His due date was the 8th. So, what's that, 4 or 5 days early? So I was really pumped. Really pumped to do this. Even though, like, of course, we all think we have this perfect birth plan, right? Like, I wanted to do it without Pitocin, but then you dangle that early delivery in front of me and not having to worry about my girls, like being able to line everything up and schedule everything. I was so happy. So we go in for the induction and everything is smooth and everything is starting to be like really slow. So we checked in at 7 a.m. and, I'm progressing, but it is very, very slow. And finally, when I got to like, I guess 7 or 8 centimeters, the nurse was like, I think that he's OP, meaning like sunny side up. So that's not completely upside down. That's breech. It's sunny side up just means that, he's not in the position that they would like for him to, come out. And that can make things a lot slower. It can make things more painful. And he did not make his appearance until 9 o'clock at night. And things got really crazy at the end. Like, really the whole labor wasn't that bad. It was just slow, very long, very slow. I was not really in pain until the very, very end, right when he got about 8 or 9 centimeters, and they were doing everything they could, trying to get me comfortable, trying to rotate him, and like 9.5 centimeters, and they're like, it's all such a blur now 4 months later, but I remember pushing with just the nurse practitioner and Mark in the room. Oh my God, nurse, that's a whole nother side story coming in a second. And the doctor wasn't even in there yet, and things are just painful, things are crazy, things are kind of intense. And then finally the doctor comes in and, she's like, okay, he's definitely OP, he's definitely sunny side up, and his heart rate's dropping. Like, we've got to get him out, and we've got to get him out fast. And I just remember like all these people coming in. So like the NICU team is in there, and the like emergency fancy surgeons with the hats, whatever, they're all in there. All of a sudden, like, everyone's in there. The atmosphere gets very, very tense, very scary. She had to use the vacuum. The Kiwi is what they called it. And, I'm like, everything's kind of a blur to me. I just remember like constantly being worried about the baby. Like, is he okay? Is he okay? And 2 attempts with the vacuum, and they got him out safe and sound. I was in so much pain. Like, this delivery was a wrecking ball compared to my other 2. Oh my goodness. But he was fine. He cried. It took him a minute, but he did cry. And, of course I'm like, is he okay? Am I okay? Did I tear down there? Like, oh my gosh, just all the panic, all the questions. And my husband, of course, was wonderful. But the end of the story is he was fine. It was a very rough recovery for me that I was not really like mentally prepared for. Oh my goodness. Like, woo, that was definitely a different delivery than the other 2. And I just remember the doctor saying like, this is why like at-home births can be so dangerous, because you have a perfect candidate for a smooth delivery and you just never know what that baby's going to do, right? You never know. There was no way to know that he was OP. And gosh, I had so many emotions of like guilt, right? Like guilt for doing the induction, and like maybe he wasn't ready. Maybe I shouldn't have done this. But the reality of the situation is, especially, after having conversations with my doctor after about my guilt and my feelings, and, he could have come on his own a week later, 2 weeks later, and been even bigger and still sunny side up. And then we really wouldn't have been able to get him out, or would have had to, explore C-sections or all those things. So, she reassured me that we really did do the right thing. And, had he been any bigger than he was almost 8 pounds. He was not really a huge baby, but to be OP, sunny side up, it's really hard to get them out. And, she reassured me that he could have easily still been, sunny side up when it was time to deliver, and for me not to have those guilty, mom feelings about it. So, everything worked out. He's fine. He's perfect. He's beautiful. He has a little bit of torticollis, which is like he favors one side over the other. So we've been working on that at home, but that's no big deal. And the nurse story that I wanted to tell you guys, oh my goodness. Okay, so we're going to go down like a little bit of a tangent. But we had this amazing nurse. I told you the delivery was long, right? So those nurses work 7 to 7. And she left at 7. I don't remember her name, but she was like the sweetest old lady. I want to say like Mary Lou, maybe? I don't know. But, and then when they're switching shifts, in walks like a former student of mine. You guys know I used to be a high school teacher. Now, not a direct student. She was not like in my classes, but I was very involved at the school. I was an assistant to the student activities coordinator, so I was very involved in like SCA, all the sports. And this girl was an amazing basketball player. She was in SCA, so I knew her very well, knew exactly who she was as soon as she walked in. And I was like mortified, right? Like, this is me 3 children later. Like, when I was a teacher at the high school, I was so young, I was so hip, like, all the things. And now I'm like, oh my gosh, this former student is going to not only deliver my child, but like see me in this horrible state that I'm in. I texted my mom. I was like, Mom, a former student just walked in. Like, I don't know if I can do this. Like, every bone in my body wanted to ask for a different nurse. But let me tell you, my mom was like, she'll be fine. She'll be fine. My mom used to be a nurse, so she knows all the nurse stuff. And, we kind of had the awkward conversation because I was like, I remember you. And once I got past it, like, she was phenomenal. She was so hardworking. She was so forward thinking. She was putting me in all these weird positions, trying to get this baby to flip around. She was so awesome. She was, like, lifted me up and helped me. And it was like, as soon as I got past it, it was fine. And she was like, just such a wonderful, wonderful delivery nurse. Both of them were. So, but that was definitely an awkward moment. It's definitely been a funny story to tell. But I'm really glad that I was able to get past it and not ask for a new nurse, because she did such a great job. I mean, like I said, at one point I was pushing with just her and my husband in the room, and she really was incredible. So that was another little funny side story there. So on the business front, I will say I did a great job planning my actual maternity leave. I only, took, like I said, like about a month off. So the whole month of October I was taking off. And I really was able to take off. I mean, I binged Grey's Anatomy, This Is Us, and Ozark. Okay, I binged all 3 of those shows on my maternity leave. That was all I wanted to do, was like hold my perfect baby boy and snuggle and enjoy my time off. And I was so proud of myself for not, leaning into the workaholic that I can be, not spending all this time on social media. Like, I really just soaked up my leave, and it was such a gift and such a blessing. Where I fell short was my comeback from maternity leave. I was like, oh, I got this great maternity leave planned, but I didn't really do a great job of planning how I was going to return to work with a baby at home, because I knew, like, we're not putting him in daycare, anytime soon. And I just was like, oh, it'll be fine. I'll be able to work with him at home. What's 1 kid at home, when I'm used to having 3 at home? And luckily, my mother-in-law helps. So she comes over 2 to 3 times a week during my normal work hours, 9:30 to 1 when Maddie's at school, and Gracie's obviously in kindergarten now. So that has been a lifesaver, but I still did not do a great job of planning just my comeback in general and how I was going to show up. But that wasn't necessarily a bad thing, because I really let me kind of come back as I was ready. Here I am, February, and we're back on the podcast. So I really took my time. That's 4 months before I really threw myself back into the podcasting and the content generation and really social media. I've been showing up very little on social media, kind of just enough. We did launch Shine the Light Society one time right after my maternity leave. But, it was a lot of learning moments about my audience and how I need to show up for them and how I need to, deliver and be there for you guys and be there with you guys. That it was a little bit difficult to come back from not being present and then all of a sudden like, oh God, I got to show my face on camera. Like, ugh, like I just had a baby. I'm not feeling it. And I just remember with Maddie, because I was working at home when I had Maddie too, like just turning a corner, right? Like you just turn a corner where all of a sudden you start feeling like yourself again. You're ready to put on makeup. You're ready to get dressed. So I feel like I'm kind of in the progress of that corner right now, making my comeback to society where maybe I won't wear sweatpants 7 days a week, maybe just 3 to 4. But it always does feel good to get dressed and to show up and to interact with my people. Yeah. So I'm really glad to be here. Okay, moving on. So here's another kind of crazy offbeat thing that happened following my maternity leave, like on the tail end of it. So I told you guys I took a couple of weeks off, just literally did not work at all. And then I started kind of easing my way back into the office, and like I was putting off, the things I should be doing, and I just wanted to create. And I had made some planner pages before maternity leave, and a friend of mine was doing a giveaway and she wanted people that had physical products. And I was like, well, I don't yet, but I'm going to have this planner soon. And it just put a fire in me to go ahead and finish this planner that I call the Messy Success Planner. You can actually see the behind the scenes and all about the planner on my Instagram at elizabeth.henson in the highlights. So go to the highlights and click planner, and you can see, all about it, why I created it, how I created it, all the things. What's inside the planner. This is a dateless planner, so there's no failing here. You can pick it up and use it when you want to and then put it down for months. It doesn't matter. But, I've been in business for a long time. I've been very creative for a long time, and I could not find a planner that had everything that I needed, specifically like the whole year at a glance, but big enough that you could write in. So I wanted to see January through December on one page, big enough that I could actually write notes on each month so that I could plan my bigger projects or launches and what weddings, what months had a lot of weddings, and really see all that at a glance. So I created exactly what I couldn't find. And then I have like a manifestation calendar in there that's always been a really important part of my business, where I just love writing down, money as it comes to me so that I can take a moment to feel the gratitude, to keep track of it each month. I think I talked a while ago about how I used to do this technique to manifest almost an extra $3,000 a month on top of whatever my projections were. So I'm kind of picking back up with that. It's like a cross between like gratitude journaling, but also planning and dreaming and brainstorming. I call it the Messy Success Planner for the Type B creative dreamer, of course. So if you want to check that out, it is actually for sale, which is not really why I created it, but a lot of people were like, I want one. So you can find that at elizabethhenson.co/shop. elizabethhenson.co/shop. And that is like the outcome of my like crazy urge to create on maternity leave. I also made Shine the Light Society shirts, Messy Success shirts. There is a digital download of the manifestation calendar in there too, if you don't want the whole physical calendar. Yeah, I don't know what I was really thinking. I just had the urge to create. And I will say, this is probably the most important piece of this conversation, that I always operate better and perform better when I let my intuition guide me. And as soon as I start to realize that I'm working from a place of scarcity or, a financial pressure, my performance drops. So I have to do a lot of soul work to really listen to my intuition and really listen to my creativity and remember that I show up best and I perform best when I really let my intuition guide me. And that's hard, right? Like I have to make a living to support my family. So there is a lot of internal battles sometimes, like, you really shouldn't be focusing on this. This is not a revenue generating activity. But as the creative person that I am, the reason, I created this podcast is like, I am a true visionary, a true creative. I struggle with a lot of the X's and O's in the Excel spreadsheets, but I love to create. I love to serve people. I love to talk about business, and I perform better in the whole package when I'm doing those things. So when I can be creative, when I can have that white space, I actually do a better job of all the stuff that I'm not good at. But when I operate from a place of pressure, or like I said, scarcity mindset, then I see a very, very quick dip in my performance. So I don't know if you've ever had those struggles, but give yourself permission to let your intuition guide you and trust yourself more than you think you might be able to. I hope that is helpful. Okay, so I did have a couple of questions come through on Instagram. I'm trying to do better about kind of letting you guys know what the podcast episodes are about, so you can send in questions ahead of time. So I asked if there was any questions around mom life, work-life balance, all the business things, and someone wrote in, how or what are best practices to staying focused during work time? So you guys know I have a very small window of time. I even shared my schedule on Instagram the other night. And right now with Anthony home, I have from about 10 o'clock to 12:40, 2 to 3 days a week. So that's like 2.5 hours 2 to 3 days a week that are completely uninterrupted. So I make sure that during that bucket of time, I'm scheduling anything that absolutely cannot be interrupted, right? So like if I have a coaching call with my group or mastermind call or podcast interview, I'm trying to do all that stuff during that window of time because that literally can't get interrupted. And I will tell you, like when I'm in that zone of showing up for my people, I don't really have to worry about staying focused because it's such a short amount of time that it's like I fall off the map during those work hours. Like my husband knows I'm terrible at answering text messages during that time. I'm terrible at like just small little correspondence. Now, I will say that I do like to show up on Instagram, especially Instagram stories during that window of time because it's so much more intentional for me than trying to do a ton of stories when I have my kids around and all that stuff. So if you follow me closely on Instagram, you'll notice that usually my business related stories happen between the hours of like 10 and 1. It just happens to be when I'm doing my work and doing my sharing, doing my podcasting, whatever it might be. So I don't tend to struggle with staying focused. Now, I will say, if I don't set clear goals, so say I have one of those days where I have my mother-in-law watching Anthony downstairs and I don't actually have a meeting or anything specific on the calendar. Now, sometimes if I'm not really careful and really disciplined, I can get sidetracked on those days and I'll just like go down rabbit holes on Facebook, or I'll get stuck writing emails that are not really that urgent or whatever it might be. So I have to be very disciplined with myself and know exactly what I'm going to accomplish so that when I sit down for that 2.5 hours, I know exactly what I'm going to jump into. And that comes down to my weekly planning that I've shared with you guys that I really enjoy. I don't do well planning too much at a time. I have to keep things very bite-sized and simple. So every Sunday night or sometimes even Monday morning, I will plan my entire week so that when I sit down at my desk, I know exactly what I'm working on. And because the season of life that I'm in, like I do sometimes sit at my desk in the evening. I wrote a pretty long email last night, and that sounded really dramatic. I was submitting something, so that's why it was like so formal and important. I was like submitting to be featured on something. Gosh, that sounded like it was a really dramatic email, but it really wasn't. It was an opportunity. So I did do that last night. Funny though, because my girls were like totally having a dance party in the office while I was doing that, but that's okay. And I just like literally, this is day 2, started getting up in the mornings. My goal is 6:15. Right now I'm rolling out of bed at like 6:30 and I spend 30 minutes in the office in the mornings. Now, a lot of that is for my 5-minute journal that I just purchased. So I spend 5 minutes doing that. And then the rest of the time, I really like to follow up on some social media stuff that I probably kind of started the night before. I'm in Jasmine Star's social curator group, and that is just a wonderful community. So I'm really trying to show up there and make some new friends and make some connections and do some networking, because it really is a great place to do that. So I tend to interact in there on the evenings and then wake up in the morning and I can kind of follow up on some of those interactions. And I don't even know if that was really the answer to the question, but being really clear with what I have to get done and then being really clear about when those things are going to get done is really the secret to my time management. And I know that because I'm so creative, I have to have white space. So I really gotten very strategic about not overbooking myself, not overextending what I can actually do in a day. Hopefully I can stick to that in February, because I'm just really excited to make this kind of comeback from maternity leave. And I do, if I can be completely vulnerable, have this fear that I am being a little bit ambitious in what I can accomplish with Anthony being, only 4 months. But we'll see. And that's what I love so much about you guys, is that you appreciate my realness, right? You appreciate the way I show up and that it's not always perfect. Okay, the second question was, what is the typical day like with mom and work life? So if you follow me on Insta, I shared this and I actually wrote up my schedule on my board, and I asked the question, I don't know if this is depressing or empowering. Of course it's empowering, but what I found depressing is that I actually consider doing laundry to be like quality alone time. That sounds crazy, right? So laundry is like one of those chores that for some reason, like I kind of just get joy and satisfaction out of. Like it makes me feel good when it's done. I enjoy the smell of fresh laundry. And our washer and dryer is upstairs. So we have one of those houses with the upstairs washer and dryer. So it's almost like I'm a little sequestered when I go upstairs to do laundry. I'll pop in my new AirPods and I can listen to, an audiobook or a podcast and kind of just like be for a little bit. Now, there are plenty of times where the girls come up. Sometimes Gracie likes to help me with the laundry, which is fabulous. That's good quality time with her. So it really just depends on if I truly get that alone time or if the girls follow me upstairs. But that's what I found a little bit depressing when I looked at the board, is I was like, 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. is Liz's alone time that she shares with chores like laundry and her time on the treadmill. Oh man, this, is definitely a special season in our life. But so a typical day, I can walk through it with you real quick, because I know everyone finds this stuff so interesting. So I have my mother-in-law 2 to 3 days a week. So 2 to 3 days a week, she'll come over about 9 when I take Maddie to school. And then she'll usually leave between 1 and 3 after I've picked up Maddie. So that way I don't have to tote Anthony with me to do the daycare pickup and drop off every single day. It's really such a blessing that she's able to do that. And then I can get my normal work hours, right? You guys know I work in the morning while my kids are at school. So Gracie, my oldest, is in elementary school. So she's like, a non-issue. She gets on the bus at 7:30. She gets home at 3. I don't have to drive her. The bus stop is right outside our house. Right now, it's working out splendidly. So we'll see how that continues. And then Maddie, I do drive to school, and she goes 9:30 to 1. And then Anthony is at home, either with me or with my mother-in-law. So if my mother-in-law's here, that is like absolute uninterrupted work time. If I have Anthony home with me, it's just a little bit here and there during his naps. And I try not to put stuff on my list for that day that is not more than I can handle with him home. So it's easy to keep up with emails. It's easy to kind of maintain my social media, but I won't really schedule any meetings or anything like that. And then my husband doesn't usually get home till 5 or 6. Lately, it's more like 6. So the hardest part of the day for me, like mom to mom, is 3 till my husband gets home, because all 3 kids are home. They're starving. Like they are a little bit bored, but like kind of need to relax at the same time. Like I'm trying to do chores during this window of time. and it's hard for me because by this time frame during the day, like I've done a lot of parenting. Like Mark leaves for work about 7:30 when Gracie gets on the bus, and I don't drop Maddie off till 9:30. And I've just done a lot of parenting by the end of the day, and I am worn out and I'm ready to just be alone. I am not an introvert necessarily, but I found myself having some introverted qualities after I had children, because really, when you have kids, there's no such thing as alone time. Like it literally it doesn't exist anymore when you have young kids. So I'm pretty done by the time he gets home. But he's coming in from a long day of hard work, so I always try to be mindful, and we really tag team as much as possible in the evenings. But I will slip upstairs for my 1 hour as much as possible. Try to get on the treadmill. Try to do something for myself before we start the bath time hustle. So bath time used to be so smooth because my husband could just do it, right? Just two girls, throw them in the bath, good to go. But now that Anthony's in the mix, it's really has to be a whole family affair, because one of us has to be with him while the girls are taking their bath, and then he has to get clean too. And the girls don't always they fight all the time now. So, it's just a different season. Bath time isn't as easy as it used to be. So we kind of divide and conquer. By the time the kids actually go to bed, I am exhausted. So there's no, nothing happens after that that's worthy of discussion other than my eyelids. But anyways, I want the kids to go to bed early because I really want that intentional time with my husband, but we're working on that. It's just a tough season right now. So that's my day in a nutshell, Monday through Friday. And then on the weekends, every now and then I'm shooting a wedding or doing some photography related stuff. Especially this time of year because the sun goes down so early during the week. But that's my week at a glance, y'all. All right. So I have started on Instagram. You guys make sure you're following me at Elizabeth.Henson, Henson. I've started doing what I'm calling Live for Five once a week, where I invite one of my friends, my followers, my peoples to go live with me on Instagram for just 5 minutes. And I do this because I really enjoy seeing what you guys are good at, right? Like telling you what you're good at. And I don't even really know what to call these yet, or what to say happens, because they're so brand new. But my intention behind it was, give me 5 minutes of your time and I'll tell you what you're really good at. Because sometimes we don't tell the world enough, what our gifts are and how we can help people. And nobody's going to come to you for help if they don't know how you can help them. So if I can help people articulate what it is they're really good at and what they do, then more people will come to them to help. And it makes it so much easier for us to refer you if we know what you do. So it's easy to kind of hide, and say, oh, well, they'll hear through the grapevine that I'm really good at this, and I'll get some word of mouth. And I'm just not ready to put it out to the world yet. No, you need to be telling the world what you do, or nobody's going to know. Nobody's going to do it for you. So come join me on Instagram for a Live for Five. I would love to hang out with you. It's an opportunity for us to kind of be together, right, on social media, instead of just on separate sides of the screen. And I hope you guys enjoyed my first episode back. I'm sorry if it's a little clunky and a little rusty. I actually recorded it in 3 separate parts. So thank you for the grace. And I'm saying that to myself and to you guys, but I look forward to keeping the conversation going. I have some really exciting episodes for you coming up in February. So stay tuned. Thank you so much for being here. Seriously, it is such an honor and a blessing to have listeners at all. I appreciate each and every one of you. And I will continue to say, if the work that I'm doing helps one person, then it is worth my time. So have a great day, you guys.